Have you ever made a choice that changed someone's life? In 2014, Maranatha decided to take a big step in Brazil. And it goes like this. Let me give you a hint. Na tarde de hoje, você vai ouvir histórias de pessoas que transformaram o mundo. Maranatha Historias de Missao começa agora. Any idea what that is? This is how we introduce Maranatha Mission Stories in Portuguese. Maranatha Mission Stories now is bilingual. Yes, stories like Peter just told here are now being spread in Brazil in Portuguese. Like my friend Stout said yesterday, if you ever shared your story on Maranatha Mission Stories in Brazil, you speak Portuguese. Know that. You know, you heard a little bit of the numbers. Now, in Brazil, around 200 million people can turn on their TVs and watch Hope Channel Brazil. And they can watch Maranatha Mission Stories. A few more numbers. Every month, the average of people that watch our show in Brazil is around 130,000 people. In the month of July of this year, we reached the highest point of our audience. 240,000 people watched Maranatha Mission Stories in Brazil, in Portuguese. How exciting is that? Yes, now we are starting to share your stories. And why we're doing that? You know, the numbers, they represent something, but it's much better to talk about Renata. Renata is a single mom that was watching our show, watching the stories of volunteers like you that have been all over the world, sharing your love to others, and she sent us a message saying, I watched Maranatha Mission Stories, and I want to know what church that is. Can I find one of those churches because I love the people that were going on mission trips. I have 2 kids, and I have been shuffling like a lift that doesn't have a place to go. Please tell me where I can find a church of the people that love like the show I watched on TV. Someone else wrote us a message saying, can I please download the song in the beginning, the theme song of Maranatha Mission Stories? Because I think that is so powerful. What do those words say? They always ask us that. And people are telling us, whenever I hear the Maranatha theme song, the Maranatha Mission Stories theme song, I get goosebumps because I know that great mission stories are coming up right after the song. And they gather their families, let's watch the TV show now. But I want to share a story of how the TV is impacting people in Brazil. Because of the TV, Maranatha has decided now to use Brazilian volunteers the same way that you are having the opportunity to go on mission trips. About 40 years ago, a pastor decided to go to a country called Mozambique. He was a Brazilian, and after 9 months in Mozambique doing evangelistic campaigns, he was arrested and deported. Well, 30 years later, Maranatha decided to start working in Africa, and a Brazilian was invited to come to Mozambique and help translate, because in Mozambique they speak Portuguese. Who the Brazilian was? I had the chance to go. I was so excited, I'm going to be a missionary. So I went to Mozambique, and after I saw thousands of Americans coming to do mission trip, I said, why don't we do the same thing in Brazil? That needs to happen in our country. So a few years later, Maranatha invited me to go back to Brazil and now lead the projects in Brazil. I was only 23 years old, but I was so excited. Now, I'm going to invite my friends to do the same thing. A few years passed and nothing happened until 2014 when the first group of volunteers came to Brazil to set an example. I was talking to Bill and Ann Cash last night, and they remember how we stood in the cafeteria during the night, and I told them, you're not only building churches, but you're setting an example for Brazilians to tell them that it's worth going to another country and sharing the love of Jesus. You know, after 1 year, Maranatha decided to start a TV show on Novo Tempo. A big investment, but the impact was huge. Someone was watching the show from home, and they were looking at Instagram, and they found an invitation. Please come volunteer in Angola. So they now watching the TV shows, they decided, we're going to go and do this. A couple, Vivia and Vanderlei. They decided to go to Angola, they loved it so much that they went again to India. In India, we sent a media team with them, and we shared the stories on the program. One day after that, Vivian's mom and her grandma were spending vacation in a small town in Brazil when her grandma was tired and she decided to sit on a bench in the store. Talking to the owner of the store, the guy started to share with her, you know, the other day I was watching a program and this couple, Vivian and Vanderlei, a couple from Brazil, were in India. And they were doing something to help people in India. And I was so touched that I decided to take my family to the church. What a coincidence, huh? Yeah. You know, Vivian and Vanderlei decided now that they're going to lead their first mission trip in Brazil. And I'm glad to announce that as of July of this year, Maranatha in Brazil has sent over 100 volunteers around the world. 100 volunteers. We could never imagine that a few years ago. Now, Vivian and Vanderlei are going to Kenya leading 14 volunteers very soon, October 26. It's a big step, something I could never imagine. Well, I cannot say that the mission is accomplished. You're probably wondering, what does that all have to do with the pastor in the beginning of the story in Mozambique, Angola? I love to see God's big picture. That pastor in Angola is Vanderlei's grandfather. The story always loops back. God has an incredible plan. And this is why Maranatha is now inviting Brazilians to do the same thing you do. Isn't that an incredible experience to go and volunteer? We want Brazilians to do the same thing. Why are we doing that? Because together, we can be stronger, we can go further, and we can get there faster. Amen.